There's nothing like the creaminess of baby red potatoes, but then you fry them and make them crispy and you're at a whole new level. Let's get cooking with style. The trick to making these red baby potatoes nice and tender and crispy is we're gonna boil them first. So we put them in a small stock pot so they're covered. Cold water, a couple tablespoons of salt. We put these on the stove, then we'll drain them off, and then we'll have them ready to do the smash part. Now this is not that hard either, so what we're gonna do is I like to use a plastic bag that I use for pounding like chicken breasts or something like that. And you're just gonna take the potato, put it in the center like that, and you're gonna take a frying pan and smash it, hence the name smashed crispy potatoes. There you go. Now we're just gonna do another one for you in case that looked difficult, but it's really not. Don't over smash it, but just a gentle press and you'll get them down like that. And there you go. So I'm gonna do these over and over again until I get these all done, and then we'll go fry them up and make them crispy. All right, I've got my pan on a medium-high heat, about 4 or 5 tablespoons of oil in there, and I'm gonna add a little bit of butter. Now I'm adding the butter to the oil. The oil will stabilize this and allow it to get nice and golden brown. Into this, I'm gonna go ahead and slide these smashed red potatoes, and we're gonna brown them up so they're crispy and delicious. Get those all the way around the edge, and don't worry if some of them will break apart or fall apart. We'll put those in and make them nice and crispy too. It's going to be about 5 minutes per side to get them nice and crispy. Get that butter all the way around there. We'll brown these up and flip them in about 5 minutes. So it's been about 4 or 5 minutes, and we'll start turning these baby red potatoes here, and they're nice and golden brown. They're going to be a little bit fragile, so you got to be careful with them. And also notice that most of the oil and butter has been cooked up, so if you want to add a little bit more oil after you make this turn, that's when you'd want to do that. But we've got about another 4 or 5 minutes to get the other side crispy. The last of these smashed red baby potatoes are ready. Let me get these on this nice plate. I've been keeping those warm in the oven, and we're gonna do a couple little things to finish them off. Now these are gonna be delicate and fall apart a little bit, but for the most, they're gonna stay together. So now, what I've done is I've taken some fresh thyme, and perhaps you don't know how to do this, and just in case you don't, here's all you need to do to get the fresh thyme. You take your finger, pinch it there, and just gently slide it across the top like that. Now I've already gone ahead and done a bunch of that. We'll sprinkle the fresh thyme over the top when it's nice and hot, because that'll let the herb's essence come out into the potatoes. And I'm gonna lightly season with just a little bit of kosher salt and then some black pepper over the top. And I love to serve potatoes with sour cream. So some smashed red baby potatoes, sour cream on the side. This is a great side dish. It goes with everything. Some couscous that's just not the side dish, but the star of the plate. I've got a great recipe that you can take and adapt to your own. Let's get cooking with style. So I've got my couscous here. My broth is boiling. To that broth, I added a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of olive oil. Give it a stir, shut it off, put the lid on, and 5 minutes later, it's done. Been about 5 minutes. Look at that, nice and fluffy. We're gonna put the butter in, and we're gonna put the lid back on top. And I'm also gonna put the olive oil over the top of this. And it's just gonna be a couple more minutes. We'll let that melt, and we'll fluff it up. It's been a couple minutes, and this butter should be just about melted. It's close enough, so let's go ahead and do this. And so when I say fluff, I mean literally fluffing. We're just gonna go like this, and you see, we're not mashing it, we're just lifting it lightly, because we don't want, this is actually a very delicate thing here. So we're gonna take it out of our pot, and we're gonna put it into a mixing bowl. And we're gonna finish it off in the mixing bowl, because I've got some really great ingredients that are gonna make this couscous really special. So, what I've done is I've gone ahead and minced up some mint, some scallions or green onions, the tops, parsley, and then I've gone ahead and used some cranberries, dried cranberries, and I've chopped them up so they're nice fine little pieces. And then to that, I've got a zest of lemon. And then additionally to all of this, I've gone ahead and toasted some papitas or pumpkin seeds. I put them in last because I don't want them to get soggy. Now you could use any other type of nut. You could use slivered almonds, sliced almonds, you could use pine nuts. I just happen to like the papitas. And so we're gonna go ahead and toss this gently. And what's great about this couscous is it really can add a lot to a meal. And it becomes almost like the showpiece to maybe something that's not as, you're not serving a larger protein. You can see how there's so much in this that it really makes for a wonderful, wonderful dish. So we'll go ahead and plate this up. I like to give a couple big scoops because I guarantee you once people try that, they're gonna want more. And I said how you don't have to have a lot of protein. You could go with some shrimp. So I've grilled some shrimp that I'll put in there like that. And then how about maybe some of these chicken tenders, we'll put those on the other side. And then to finish it off, I'll just take a little bit of lemon and squeeze that over the top of everything. So we have a little bit of lemon. Now remember, you've got the lemon zest in there. So that is my version of a couscous. You can change this recipe up to what you'd like, but this is my elevated version of it. When you go to a chop house and they have the wedge head with the blue cheese dressing on the top, this thing can cost you up to 15 bucks. Well, I had a roommate that worked at Rainwater's, the steakhouse downtown, and he gave me the recipe from there. Let's get cooking with Styles. Now, the great thing about making blue cheese dressing is that there are different cheeses that are basically the same thing. You have Roquefort, which is French, you have Gorgonzola, which is Italian. I'm using the American blue cheese here, 1 cup there. And then we've got some sour cream. And this is it's really simple, okay? Sour cream, and then we've got our mayonnaise, and we're gonna spice this up a little bit with some different ingredients. So I've got salt, fresh cracked pepper, and brown sugar. You could use honey if you'd like instead, but I'm using the brown sugar. And then we take a little bit of lemon juice and about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more. And now we're gonna add a little bit of parsley, and I use fresh, about a tablespoon. And then what Molly likes to do is add a little Parmesan cheese. I'm gonna put in a 1/4 cup Worcestershire, give it a good shake because there's a lot of ingredients in there, a couple shots. And now here again, depending on what type of hot sauce you like to use, you could use Tabasco. I'm using kind of a Mexican style here, and this is just mixed together. Now really the best way to do this is if you put this in the refrigerator and let it settle a little bit. Now you see how thick that is? That's just, for me, that's just a little too thick. So I like to thin this out just a little bit with some little buttermilk. So then you just incorporate your buttermilk in there to get it to the consistency that you like. I like that consistency, maybe just a little bit thinner. And then the key to really making this all come together, because we're doing a wedge head here. So you got to make sure your iceberg lettuce is nice and cold. So what I've done is I've taken my iceberg lettuce and I've drenched it in ice cold water, and then I put it in the fridge. And then just before I go to serve it, I take it and put it in my spinner, and I'll spin it just a little bit here to make sure that I get all the water out of that. And once I give that a little spin, of course the water's gonna come out. You see that water coming out right there? We don't want that in our salad. Take that out, and let's go ahead and plate this up. And I gotta tell you, this is the best part, because you get to put all the ingredients that you like on the top. So we've got a nice wedge head there. We're gonna take our blue cheese dressing, put it right over the top, just like they do in the chop house. And then we're gonna finish this off, because you know what bacon does? It makes everything better. A little bit of bacon on top, and a sprinkle of parsley just to kind of accent that just a little bit. I gotta tell you, this right here, this wedge head with the fresh blue cheese dressing on top, it's gonna be just like you're eating it at a steakhouse, for about a quarter of the price. You find Caesar salad at just about every restaurant across San Diego, and if the legend is correct, it was invented in Tijuana. Let's get cooking with Styles and I'll show you my recipe. So you can buy store-bought croutons, but making them at home is just as easy and they're way better. Try to use some stale bread. I've got some sourdough here and I've cut it into cubes. And all I'm gonna do is just take a little bit of olive oil, drizzle it over the top, and we're gonna put about 2 tablespoons in there. A pinch of salt over the top, some garlic powder. This is how easy this really is. And then we'll take a little bit of oregano. You can use Italian seasoning if you want, or you don't have to use any. And we're just gonna toss this lightly, just to coat that. And it doesn't take much. We're gonna pop this in the oven for about, say, 10-12 minutes at 450 degrees. Keep an eye on it, these things burn quick. These go in a preheated oven on the top shelf. This is from when I worked at Adolph's in Utah. Huge bowl, little salad, but it works great. So the ingredients for the Caesar salad are really straightforward. A couple slices of anchovies or fillets, and then we're gonna put 2 cloves of garlic. If you don't have one of these, a garlic press, you should get one because they are magical. Just do that. There's 1 clove of garlic, and then another clove of garlic. In we go. We'll put that in the bottom. About a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. And then we're gonna take 2 dashes of Worcestershire. Now, if you're wondering where did Caesar salad came from, a gentleman by the name of Caesar Cardini was in Tijuana at Caesar's Restaurant Hotel. He had a hotel down there, and in 1924 is when it came to be. He had a restaurant down there, and they were running out of things to serve people, and so he came up with this recipe. Okay, so we're gonna take our mixture right here like that. We're gonna take our lemon and we're gonna squeeze it through. We're gonna use our fingers to catch the seeds so we don't get those into the dressing. We're gonna take another one. You could put red wine vinegar, but I like the lemon because it adds a lot of freshness to it. And then we're gonna take our coddled egg. Now you could use mayonnaise if you don't wanna use a raw egg. Coddled is when you put the egg in boiling water and you'll see that little bit of white. That's the coddling of the egg. If you don't like to use whole egg, you can go with like 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise. All right, now watch when I mix this. It's gonna thicken up here pretty quick. So now to this, we're gonna add about 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese. And then we've got 1 head of romaine. Make sure it's dry because if it's wet, the dressing will not stick. We're gonna toss this nicely. Now let's get those freshly made croutons in there, which will make a big difference. And a little more toss to coat those. All right, let's plate this up so we can serve up our homemade Caesar salad. I love those crunchy croutons with the beautiful fresh dressing and the wonderful hearts of romaine. To this, we're gonna put a little Parmigiano Reggiano on top. And then we'll finish this off with a little black pepper over the top. And that, my friends, is the Caesar salad, the traditional way. Leeks au gratin, you say, what the heck is that? Well, it's a vegetable you see in the store all the time. We're going 2.0 on Cooking with Styles. Let's get started. Since we're elevating you with leeks, I'm gonna show you how to deal with these guys. We're gonna trim off this base right here. That's gone. And I know, what a waste, watch this. We're gonna take that whole top, and that's gone. Now this dark green around the edge, I'm just gonna run my knife around that because I want everything on the inside. That's good enough to keep. We're gonna take this and split it down the middle, flip this over, we're gonna split it like this, and this is not done yet. There's still a little bit more prep to do. As you get down towards this greener stuff, cut it a little bit smaller. From here, we're gonna take all of these cuttings and we're gonna put them in this little colander or pasta strainer, and we're gonna go wash it off at the sink before we get everything going. What we're gonna do first before we cook the leeks is we're gonna make a cream sauce here. So we're using a half stick of butter, and I'm melting that in the pan, and I'm gonna take 2 tablespoons, maybe 3 tablespoons of butter, and I'm gonna blend that together and let it melt and suspend the flour in the butter fat so that when I put my milk in, it doesn't turn to all lumps. I'm gonna have this on a medium-low heat. While that's happening, I'm gonna let that cook just a little bit. I'm gonna make my breadcrumbs. I've got 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm gonna pour it over the top of the panko breadcrumbs, and I'm gonna just take this and I'm just gonna mash it around so they all get coated. And you'll know when they're all coated because you can see the ones that are white, those aren't coated yet. What the oil does is it enables the breadcrumbs to brown much quicker and become even crispier. All right, so those are good to go. I'm gonna take my little whisk here and whisk it around in that flour and butter. It's been simmering for about a minute, maybe a minute and a half. To this, I'm going to add a little bit of Dijon mustard, about a tablespoon. I'm gonna whisk that around just a little bit. And that is going to be part of our cream sauce. And now to this, slowly but consistently, I'm going to add my milk, about 2 cups. And I'm going to bring this to a low simmer and let that cook for about 5 minutes, and then that'll thicken up. So our white sauce is just about ready, but in the meantime, while we finish that up, I'm going to put the leeks right into my boiling water. It's been heavily salted, and we'll blanch those for about 2 or 3 minutes. Now back to the sauce. You can see that creamy niceness that we've got in there. To this, about a teaspoon of salt, and then I'm going to put a couple twists, maybe 3 of black pepper, and then our cheese we're using is Swiss. You could use Gruyere, you could use a Monterey Jack, but for this dish, we're gonna put about half of it in there, and we'll fold that into our sauce. Keep that nice and warm. All right, the leeks are done. It's still beautiful color there, and we're just gonna strain these and then put them right back into the pot. Make sure you get as much water off as you can, give them a little shake, and then right back into the pot and back on into the stove, because we're almost ready to throw this in the oven. We've got our beautiful little sauce right here. We'll put that over the top. So we just fold that over, and look at how nice and creamy that is in there. It's just beautiful. I've got my little baking dish. In it goes. Make sure you get all the goodness that's in there, because there is some good food inside here. And then we're just gonna take this, tamp it down like that. You remember those panko breadcrumbs? Now it's their time to shine. And we just sprinkle them over the top. And there's no rhyme, no reason to this. Get them in there and just make sure you spread it out so you get them all across the top. And from here, we go into the oven and wait for the happiness to happen. The olive oil tossed panko breadcrumbs browned up perfectly. I mean, take a look at those. Let's take a look and see how this turned out. I'm just gonna take a little piece over here, because this is one of my favorite dishes. I'm telling you, this creamy goodness with, look at that, look at the steam coming off that. Now the textures here of the creaminess and the onions and the breadcrumbs on top, I'm probably gonna burn my mouth, but. Man, that is a home run. As we head into grilling season, how about some grilled cheesy bread? It is simple, easy, and I'm telling you, everyone's gonna love you for making it. Let's get cooking with style. Let's first start by making the garlic butter, and then I'm gonna show you the little trick that we do to the roll that makes it extra special. So I've got my butter that's softened up. We're gonna take a little bit of oregano, about a teaspoon, less if you don't like oregano. You could also use the Italian seasonings. We're gonna take about a tablespoon of garlic, and again, more or less, depending on what you like. We're gonna use half of our Parmesan cheese. We're gonna use about a 1/4 cup here, and then we're gonna use the rest later, and we're gonna put a little bit of fresh parsley in. We'll also use that at the very end. We're gonna go ahead and mix this up so it's well blended. And one of the things I want you to do is to try to make this in advance so that the garlic that's in there and the oregano that's dried can all start to open up, the flavors start to come together. You see I've made like a nice paste with that. So we're gonna make this in advance. You could put this in the freezer, you could keep it in the refrigerator just like regular butter. It probably lasts about a week, but go ahead and make this up in advance, set it aside. Now with the roll, what we're gonna do is we're gonna split it in half, and I'm just gonna do half the roll here. And what I want you to do with this, because we're gonna make this toasted, so we're gonna take a little bit of olive oil, and drizzle it over the top, like so. Try to get it on the bread, not on the cutting board. Put a little bit of salt, and we'll come back with a little bit of pepper. Now I'm going to head over to the grill and pop this on the grill for a second. So let's go throw these on the grill and press them together so the oil gets spread around. My grill is nice and toasty. I'm going to put these on so we get a little bit of hash marks on there. And this doesn't take long, so don't wait. And I mean really quick. See what I mean? That quick. Come on, baby. Come on off. There we go. We're going to turn them back this way so we get the hash marks. Look at that. That turned out perfect. Now if this one doesn't stick as much, we'll be good to go. There you go. That's what we're looking for. Let's put the lid back down so we keep that heat in there. Part of the reason we did this grilling first is obviously for appearance, but it makes this side crusty. So we're going to take our butter, spread that on. Don't put too much on because we've already got the oil there, and what we're trying to do really here is just get the flavor. Just enough to get that flavor in. We're going to take some mozzarella cheese, low moisture, and sprinkle that down the center. Okay. Get these two. Now, you still got your grill going, okay? It's on high on one side. If you have a Smoky Joe, it's gonna be hard to do this, but if you have a dual burner grill, you'll be able to have one side raging hot and the other side just barely cooking. All right, let's head on back over to the grill and get these toasted up. Remember, you're doing this on indirect heat, so one side of the grill, whichever side you pick, is raging heat. This is super low. We're gonna put these on. And you have to remember what part of your grill is hot. And we're just gonna keep an eye on this. I've got this side on low, that side on high. We'll check in just a couple minutes. All right, it's been about 7-8 minutes. Let's take a look. Look at that, bubbling, cheesy. A little brown on the bottom, but hey, it adds a little more crunch. Those are almost done, but not quite. Come with me. All right, so we're gonna do one more cool little thing to this to make it really a nice presentation. I want you to cut these on an angle. Listen to that crunch, huh? Is that fantastic? All right, put them back on the plate, arrange them randomly so there's no one particular for any one person. Okay, little Parmesan over the top, and then just a little sprinkle of parsley to kind of give it some contrasting color. That is some grilled cheesy bread. However, you remember that caprese salad we made? We're gonna take one of those little guys and set it right on top. And now you've got a fantastic lunch. Grilled cheesy bread, elegant, casual cooking.